Yeah, well, that's what you get. Yes. It is pain. It's up to you to decide whether you want to be a contender or whether you want to be an NPC. And the problem with deciding to be a contender is that you might be entirely wrong. Like, completely. Yeah. There is a good book about this. I can highly recommend this book. It's about this, basically. You might need to read this book. It's kind of about creative work, and it's about how to achieve goals when you don't even know what the goal is. Why greatness cannot be planned. It's also a very thin book too. It's a light read. Yeah, I know. This is what I mean with like a forcing function on what your output might be. I know I need a web engine, and I know that I need very little code to achieve what I want. And that forces me to work in a clear direction. I mean, you kind of have something similar when you say, I want this to make sense in a certain context. It's also very badly printed. It looks like a on-demand print, actually. Why greatness cannot be planned? Why does modern life revolve around objectives, from how science is funded to improving how children are educated, and nearly everything in between? Our society has become obsessed with the seductive illusion that greatness results from doggedly measuring improvements in the relentless pursuit of an ambitious goal. In Why Greatness Cannot Be Planned, Stanley and Lehman begin with a surprising scientific discovery in artificial intelligence that leads ultimately to the conclusion that the objective obsession has gone too far. They make the case that great achievement cannot be bottled up into mechanical metrics, that innovation is not driven by narrowly focused heroic effort, and that we would be wiser and the outcomes better if instead we wholeheartedly embraced serendipitous discovery and playful creativity. I say maybe you want to get this book, and only if it's just to keep you a little sane. Because you literally don't have a clear destination right now, and that's the problem. I have made all the decisions for what I want the language to look like in a higher level, and I've drawn it out. I can write it by hand, but now my computer just needs to do it. Well, small asterisks to that. You kind of have a direction, and now the worst thing that you could do right now is to cling to that result, because your result might still be wrong. And in the spirit of this book, you now have a direction to walk into, and what you end up with might be 99% of where you thought you would end up, and still be entirely different. Which is kind of what happened with my web engine. Because in trying to deal with all the intricacies and complexities of the implementation, the ideas that I came up with trying to do justice to this approach were a lot better than what I had when I thought I knew what the result was. And the book is kind of about that we always have this illusion that we know what the result is. And this is, yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same on a society level right now. We think we know what the metrics are for a good society and how we will end up there. And we are right now stuck in a loop where we have these grand illusions of the utopia that we want to achieve. And everybody pretends like we can just force everybody to be more like the result, and that will produce the result. But that's entirely wrong, because what actually usually happens in engineering is that you have a nebulous goal, and you have to force yourself to think of it as a nebulous goal. And by moving or by attempting to move towards that goal, you get into a process that actually can produce good results. But in the end, you might find out that had you just pretended that you could be already at the result, you would have gotten it entirely wrong, because of minute details that made all the difference in the world. And this is, I guess, this structure might have been apparent to me from the beginning. And it matches my original plan, like 95% of it. But I still didn't see this. I could have only seen this by moving towards it. This text pretends like you can never have goals, and you just like, if you read this, it might seem as though you just close your eyes and stumble forward until you arrive at greatness, and that you should never have goals, basically. The book is more about cautioning you to not cling to the goal as I need to achieve this result 100%. Because in moving towards that goal, you might arrive at something that looks 99% like that goal, and it's still completely different than what you thought it might be in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, this is also what I did. I mean, now that I've done it, I can fit it into my head, but I did need to draw this out to understand it, really. And this is also the part that humans mostly think they're very good at, and they never are. I think I should actually clip this part about this book, because it was kind of instructive to me. I read this years ago, actually. When did I get this book? It must have been around this time when I started working on laser, I think. Well, I'm kind of good at visualizing, but it's the same as with LLMs. You have a context window, and you have to be very careful about the amount of stuff that you put into your context, because if you always hit the limit of your context window, important stuff can fall out, and then it's helpful to delegate some of that memory into a concrete graphic representation, so you can store that away in your mind to a certain degree and have the rest of the context window, or the freed up space in your context window, to deal with the actual implementation of that. It's like this again. I think you're dealing with a fundamental limit in your thinking, and you can use that to your advantage. And you should, because that's the only thing that you can do, other than pretend that it should be bigger and always fail, because that's a recipe for failure. And I also have I have this here. I just have a lot of cards and plans that I wrote down sometime, and I'm not looking at them a lot, I just have them. And I thought about them at some point, and every now and then I go through them and find out old ideas. But mostly it's like when you learn a language, you make these little cards out of the vocabulary, and you just write them down. And in writing them down, you start to remember them, and they kind of sink into a different level in your brain. And I have a lot of cards. And I rarely read them, but having written them is an asset. So if you're not doing that, you might need to start doing that. That's not right grammar. Yeah. Write down more, and then forget about it. Well, not forget about it, but in writing it down, it'll move into a different space in your head. And it's faster than like doing stuff in Draw.io even, because it just is scribbling lines. And that's the first stage, and then you can get to the second stage, which is this here. And then you kind of build your own little LLM that builds quality. Maybe. Maybe not, though. Maybe you're still wrong. Well, yes, I think so. Well, it's very human to be highly uncomfortable with uncertainty. And the difference between people who come up with innovations and literal NPCs is the stubbornness to pursue something that might be entirely wrong. And since we only see the results of innovation, it feels very glorious and something that you just have to do, and then you get all the rewards. But what you don't see is all the people who fail, because most of them do fail. And you never see them, and they die poor and lonely. And it's kind of sad. But unless we do this process as a society, we don't get innovation. And it's the collateral damage of having innovation is that there are a lot of people who just fail all the time. So if it's still fun and you still want to pursue this, I can recommend it. Not because I know what the result will be, but because of what the result might be. And greatness might be the result, but it's not a guarantee at all. And sometimes you just end up sad. But then you at least had fun, you know? And sometimes that's all you get. And it's not even fun. It's like not like the I live in happiness and everything is flowers and rainbows. It's more like a sense of satisfaction that you're moving towards something that might be valuable. Yeah. And I will stop streaming now. Didn't get that much done, but I think this is a good place to stop here. I can take it from here. So yeah, I'll see you soon. I'll be back tomorrow with more of this. Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah, start prompting. Ooh. See ya.